Imagine it is the mid-1990s. You're on the humid, debris-strewn streets of Monrovia, the capital of Liberia. The air is thick with the smell of salt spray from the Atlantic and the acrid smoke of spent gunpowder. Across a bridge, a group of fighters emerges, but they don't look like any army you've seen in a textbook. There are no camouflage fatigues, no polished boots, no standard-issue helmets. Instead, you see a young man charging forward in a flowing white wedding dress, clutching an AK-47. Beside him, another fighter wears a neon pink bobbed wig and a plastic rubber mask of a Hollywood movie monster. Another wears a graduation gown, tassels swaying as he takes cover. To a Western observer, this looked like a descent into pure madness, a fever dream of chaos. But in the context of the First and Second Liberian Civil Wars, these bizarre costumes were far from random. They were a calculated blend of psychological warfare, ancient spiritual belief, and a desperate search for identity in a world that had fallen apart. Today, we go behind the haunting photos to answer one of the strangest questions in modern military history. Why did Liberian soldiers wear wigs? To understand the costumes, we must first understand the conflict. Liberia's civil wars, spanning from 1989 to 2003, were among the brutal in African history. It began when Charles Taylor and his National Patriotic Front of Liberia, NPFL, crossed the border to topple the regime of Samuel Doe. The state collapsed almost instantly. What followed was a fractionalized war, fought not just by professional soldiers, but by small boys' units, child soldiers, and disenfranchised youth. These were people who had lost everything, their families, their schools, and their futures. In this vacuum of authority, formal military structures vanished. There were no factories producing uniforms, no central supply chains. But more importantly, the rules of engagement vanished too. In a war where you might be fighting your neighbor or a former classmate, the fighters needed a way to transform themselves into something else, something terrifying. The first reason for the wigs and dresses was pure, cold-blooded psychological warfare. When you are an insurgent force with limited training, your greatest weapon is the fear you instill in your enemy. By donning women's clothing, wigs, and masks, the rebels projected an image of unhinged aggression. To a government soldier or a civilian, a man in a blonde wig and a prom dress didn't look like a soldier, he looked like a demon. It signaled to the opponent that these fighters did not care of the laws of man or the norms of society. They were portraying themselves as people who had completely crossed over the line of sanity. Psychologically, it is much harder to predict the movements of someone who looks like they're participating in a macabre carnival than someone in a green uniform. This performance of madness forced the opposition to hesitate, and in a firefight, a second of hesitation is the difference between life and death.
Beyond the fear factor, there was a deeply rooted spiritual element. In many West African traditional beliefs, the world is not just what we see. It is populated by spirits that can be invoked for protection. Many Liberian fighters believed in juju, or spiritual bulletproofing. They were convinced that through certain rituals and by wearing specific items, they could become invincible. But why women's clothing specifically? There was a prevailing superstition that if a soldier disguised his identity, the spirit of an incoming bullet would be confused. The bullet, expecting to hit a man, would see a woman or a bride and miss its mark. By crossing the gender line, they believed they were creating a spiritual cloak of invisibility. This wasn't just about the clothes, it was about the ritual of becoming. Putting on the wig wasn't just a costume change, it was a transition into a warrior state where the normal vulnerabilities of the human body supposedly no longer applied. This leads us to the most infamous aspect of the war, the adoption of war personas. In a conflict this brutal, the psychological toll on a young fighter is immense. How do you commit atrocities? How do you burn villages or kill people you know and then live with yourself? The answer was dissociation. By adopting a war name and a costume, the fighter could separate his civilian self from his warrior self. The person killing wasn't Joshua or Samuel, it was General Mosquito, General Rambo, or General No Glove. The most extreme example was Joshua Milton Blahy, known as General Butt Naked. He led a troop of soldiers who fought completely naked, wearing only sneakers and carrying their weapons. Blahy claimed that a vision told him his nakedness made him immune to bullets. While Blahy went for the absence of clothing, others used the more is more approach. The wigs and dresses acted as a physical barrier between the boy and the soldier. It was a way to say, "This isn't me, this is the persona." When the wig came off at the end of the day, the fighter tried to leave the horrors of the day behind with it. Finally, we have to look at the practical side. In a chaotic bush war involving dozens of different factions, friendly fire is a constant threat. Without standard uniforms, groups needed a way to recognize each other in the heat of battle. If everyone in your unit is wearing a specific color of wig or a certain type of bathrobe, you know exactly who not to shoot when the smoke gets thick. These eccentric outfits became the makeshift insignias of the rebel units, a visual shorthand for loyalty in a war where allegiances shifted like sand. Today, the war is over. The wigs and wedding dresses have been traded for the professional, standardized uniforms of the modern armed forces of Liberia. The country has made incredible strides in rebuilding its soul and its society. But the images of the wigged warriors remain some of the most analyzed photos in the history of conflict. They serve as a powerful reminder of what happens when a society collapses. People will reach for whatever they can, be it a plastic mask or a silk dress, to find protection, to find power, and to survive the unimaginable. The wigs weren't a joke. They were a shield, a mask, and a prayer, all rolled into one.